was thinking about how when you have a smaller group of people who have something in common and they all share the same space, that's how you create a good community. And as I was playing New World, I was thinking about how the global chat is actually pretty fun to interact with here in North America West. And the reason for that is simple. Because Amazon has a West server. Most of the people who are in the chat on the server are, in fact, from the same geographic part of the country. The western half of the country tends to be in the US West server. So right there, everybody here pretty much has something in common in real life, much more than would be the case if it was a global server. Then there's the fact that there's just not that many people there. It's not absent of people, but it's not an absolutely overwhelming number of people who are participating at any given time. So in global chat in New World, what I find is when I sign in, it's not at all uncommon for the people who I was chatting with yesterday to be on today. You get to know people a little bit, and it doesn't mean that you're necessarily friends. It doesn't mean that I'm playing the game with them all the time, but there's still people who I see, and we'll have a little bit of banter back and forth, and it really feels like we're part of the same shared world, and we kind of sort of know each other, which is super cool. And I think it's actually a better experience as a solo player who doesn't necessarily want to do anything with a guild. I think just being able to sign in the game and interact in a positive way with the global chat, I think I've had a better experience in New World in that specific regard than I've had in possibly any other MMO. And there's some MMOs that have chat boxes that are absolutely ridiculous. Like Albion Online is probably the worst I've ever seen, where every single thing that's flowing through that global chat is some kind of profanity or trolling or foreign language or something. It's very difficult to have any good positive exchanges with people in that game. In New World, it's a lot more reasonable. So all things considered, I think I think that New World is pretty cool in that way. But as a more broad topic, I also think it's interesting how we tend to think that you have more of a sense of community if you have more people. There's more you can do if there's a bigger group. But the truth is often more that you have a better sense of community if you have a smaller community. Because when you get to a certain point, there's not any way to make any experience personal. I know it was that way living in the Seattle area for a period of time. There's 3 or 4 million people living there. So it's super easy to go through your whole life and never really run into the same person twice. You just don't have any sense of being part of any kind of community at all. And now living in a smaller town, it doesn't mean that I see everybody all the time, but there's only about maybe 30,000-40,000 people living in my city. So we all do go to the same grocery stores. We go to the same places, and that's really cool. And it's kind of the same thing in a game. So people, I know I've heard people say a lot New World is a dead game because it doesn't have the active player base that maybe some other games have, at least on some servers. And it really isn't, it isn't a dead game, because a dead game is, well, by definition, no one's playing it. And New World is absolutely not dead by that standard. But, you know, it's not as popular as it had been when it first launched. But that's not really a surprise. In any case, I think the more sparse population actually kind of contributes to the vibe of feeling like it's possible to have your own adventure, and you can kind of get lost in the world. You can go off into some distant corner of a map and you might not see anybody for quite a while. And I think that's pretty cool. If you want to just kind of be able to simulate having that solo kind of an experience, it's pretty cool for that. But anyway, the purpose of the video today is just to talk about how smaller groups tend to breed better senses of community, and that's a little bit counterintuitive to something that maybe we imagine, which is that more is always better. And sometimes less is more. And you can, you know, you don't need millions of people in order to make a couple good friends. That's the truth. And so, yeah, that's just kind of something I thought was interesting. And then I think another thing while I'm talking about New World, though, is not having level scaling and having enemies that are actually kind of hard to beat. Even if you're level 60 and you encounter a bunch of level 60 mobs, if you don't pay attention to what you're doing, they may kill you. There isn't any point in New World where you're just so absolutely powerful that you can one-shot every single thing in the game. So there is a usefulness in having more power or more skill as a PvE player. Not to mention that for other players who are lower level, being assisted by somebody who's higher level is definitely helpful. If you're trying to do a quest that requires you to kill higher level enemies, potentially, having somebody who is a higher level player will make that an easier experience. If you wanted to go explore an area that is higher level than you, you could go there with somebody who is able to escort you. And those are things that you don't have those experiences at all in a level scaled game like Elder Scrolls Online. Not to say that you have to have those features, but it all is more little things that contribute to players coincidentally interacting with each other in an organic way, not necessarily related to a quest or a formal grouping or a dungeon or something like that. And you know, I think that's a nice thing, to be able to play the game solo, but then also feel passively like you're getting the benefit of being in a shared world. And too often, those two things kind of infringe on each other. You'll feel like the focus is so much on an experience that's on rails that you can't really have your own adventure. Or you just don't necessarily have any reason to interact with other people at all. Like, I think Final Fantasy XIV struck me that way. It was a game where there's nothing to do if you weren't doing a dungeon or doing a main story quest. Elder Scrolls Online is very much a game where it doesn't feel like there's any reason to interact with any other players at all. So if everything is soloable and there's just nothing really to do with other people, then how would you just randomly make friends with anybody? It's kind of, because, you know, you're not going to say, hey, you know, let's go into this dangerous area together and kill these mobs if all the mobs are easy and you just click them until they're dead, you know. Not to say that ESO doesn't have some harder mobs in there in some places, the group stuff, but definitely, I think that that's one of the more anticlimactic things about Elder Scrolls Online, is the feeling that you know, you're going on this grand adventure to face these incredible enemies, and then turns out they're all totally toothless. I remember in Skyrim, you go out there and you see these giants walking back and forth, and you think, oh my goodness, shoot, what's the deal with this giant? And the giant one-shots you, just totally pulverizes you. And then you go into the same area in Elder Scrolls Online, and there's a giant over there, and it's just another level scaled mob, just like every other mob in the game. You walk up there, you whack him a few times until he's dead. And that's the truth. That's the truth about ESO. It's, you know, basically killing a monster-sized troll in Skyrim is no different than killing a mud crab on the beach outside Daggerfall. It's the same basic thing. Walk up and click until the enemy is dead. That's it. That's all there is to it. And if you have a companion, you don't even need to click. Just go in the area and stand there while your guardian bear and your companion do all the combat for you. Then there's a quest. And I like the lore and I like the world building of the Elder Scrolls. I think it's amazing. But there's also truth in the fact that all of the quests in Elder Scrolls Online, just like pretty much every MMO, are some kind of go kill X number of thing, go to a certain place. They're kind of fetch quests. Because what other kind of quests would you have? Like, how do you make a quest in an MMO that's not going to be basically a fetch quest? And that's kind of what they are, and that's all right. But I've just heard people say that this or that game doesn't have fetch quests, or that a game is really bad because it has fetch quests. I've heard that about New World. Say, well, all the quests in New World are fetch quests. Well, yeah. But what other kind of quest would there be? There really isn't any other kind. So I think a lot of it is just perception. In any case, it's I guess day 2 of trying to give New World a try again. And, you know, with an open mind, I find I really enjoy the game. It seems pretty fun. I know I had fun when it first released, and I've come and gone off and on. But I haven't really made it my main game. And now my intention is to make it my main game for a while and really truly put it to the test and see, can I enjoy New World as my only MMO experience. And, you know, as a casual, I think I quite possibly can. The environmentals sure are nice. It's definitely a pretty world to run around in. In any case, till next time, thank you for watching.